We're gonna do a little different this time. Now it's Adam Ill POV. What? It's the podcast. You already know. Out here, Purple Haze Dash Radio. There's the set. Here I am. You know who's on the show today? This guy right here. This for you, Adrian. Yeah! Y'all know who it is. The highest host, Adam Ill, chilling out right here. Purple Haze Dash Radio. Sitting next to a fucking legend. I'm really honored to be sitting next to this man. I've been talking about him for almost a decade since I've been doing the podcast, and having him sit right next to me and actually spend the day with me today was really humbling and excited. And before I get to this man real quick, the man Eddy Lepp, who is a pioneer in this industry. I know a lot of people, will say things about me being an old man in this industry and doing what I do, but the guy next to me has been doing shit before I was even thought of. We're gonna get into all that. But I want to thank everyone who is listening right now. We're tuned in wherever you're at in the world. I appreciate you. You could be doing anything you want with your time, and you're here with us. So we're gonna make the best out of it wherever you're at. If you're on YouTube or iTunes or Spotify or Dash Radio, wherever, we appreciate you. And wherever you're listening, in the car or at home or in the grow or at the trim room or in the dispensary or at your mom's house or with your friends or in the garage at the sesh, wherever the fuck you at, I appreciate you for tuning in. And I just want to get to some. Before I get to you, Eddy Lepp, the legend in the building, I just want to talk about something because you got to join me today at a little event that I do every weekend. We like to call them the traditional market, a little traditional market. The black market's a little negative. Shout out to my boy David, but I learned the traditional market because that's what we started. And we were walking around and, people don't really know history of cannabis. And I've spoken about a lot of great people that I looked up to when I started smoking weed and learning from. One of the guys, his name is Jack Hare, rest in peace. Jack Herrera was a great dude. He was a great activist. He educated me about the hemp plant. He taught me everything, how hemp will save the planet. And a lot of people these days just think he's a strain. Don't even know it's a real person. This man next to me, legend, grown thousands and thousands and thousands of plants, got caught with kilos, got his farm raided, spent federal time because of the plant, because of what we got to do right now. And a lot of people just didn't know who this guy is. And the freedoms we have now is because of this guy's balls and the shit that he was doing before any of these corporations even thought of the plant. He was out here making it happen. So I just want to let anyone know who actually consumes weed and is into it, just to learn the history and what we've been going and what we've gone through and all the time people have spent in jail, because there's been many pioneers in this community that have believed in this plant and knew the benefits of it before they taught it to us, and before we got educated, before the internet, before any of this social media shit. No one really knew about weed and the benefits, or growing it or having it around, or the medical benefits. But I believe there was a bunch of people out there that were trying to preach it. And the guy sitting right next to me, Eddy Lepp, was one of them. And I appreciate you for doing that and building this pathway for us to keep it alive, keep the education going on this plant. Because now, with all this corporate money and with all this acceptance in the culture and society, they're understanding the benefits of cannabis. And knowing that there's many factors that this plant have that can help the world. And when did you discover this, Eddy? So I just want to say something before I ask you that. Just know who have paved the way for you and who the history people are in our industry. You never know who you'll talk to, who you meet, or what they've done for whatever it is that you're into. But did you always believe the cannabis plant was was beneficial, or did you just like getting high? I love getting high, but
The thing is I'm a child of the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up on Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. I lived in Reno, but my best friend and I, we would go down to the city every weekend right after work, and we would stay until we had to go back to work. And, Winterland and all of the different shows, all of the tremendous music, and going to the park, and just all of the things that we did as young kids. And I started using cannabis. And
How old were you when you first started using cannabis?
Oh, gosh, probably the first time, probably 13 or 14. I didn't start smoking it on a regular basis until I actually went in the Army.
Okay.
Prior to that, it was just occasional.
It was just something.
Yeah, it was just occasional. I mean, I didn't really drink then. I didn't really smoke cannabis or anything. I was pretty straight-laced.
You were just living. Where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in Illinois.
Okay.
In a little town called La Harpe, right on the Mississippi River. And Dallas City is where a lot of my family's from. And when I was very, very young, my dad was in the military, so we were in Texas for a little bit, Colorado for a little bit.
So you're moving a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But by the time I was about 5 or 6, 7 years old, we moved to Reno. And my family still
The world's biggest little city.
The world's biggest little city. And my family still lives there, all my sisters and nieces and nephews. My whole family's, not all of them, but there's a lot of them in Reno. But many years ago when I came back from Vietnam, I moved to California. And with the exception of one brief excursion back up to Reno for a couple years, I've lived in California. So I added it up. I looked at it, I don't know, a while back, but I've spent over half of my life
in California.
I've been a resident of California. So
what? So thank you again, Eddie, for joining me on the show. I know
it's an honor.
Time is very valuable, and you had to sacrifice almost a decade of your life because of this. But I just wanted to know, I just want to get to know, that's the history of Eddy Lepp, because I know everyone has a story. Like, how were you? So you grew up in Reno. How were you as a kid? Were you a good student? Did you?
No, I was a horrible student. Unfortunately, and I don't want to sound conceited or arrogant, but I'm very intelligent. I have a very high IQ. And school, frankly, bored me to death.
I totally believe they teach us shit we don't even use.
I got in trouble in school one time. It was funny. I'll never forget it. I was in the 6th grade. And
so you're like 12, 11.
11, 12. And I got in trouble because my teacher caught me reading a book during class that I wasn't supposed to be reading. It was like math class. And I'm reading Ivanhoe.
Okay,
which is a classic that they use at college level for various literature projects.
Right.
And she chewed me out for doing it. And then after class, she called me in. She said, "Stay after class." And that's when she told me, she says, "Eddie, that book is something that college level people read, college students, and do book reports and things."
Right.
She says, "I'm thrilled that you're reading it, but this was history class,
Right.
And that's the way school was for me. There was always something more interesting than what I was,
right.
So I didn't do real well at school. I got out, I quit school. I went to barber college. I barbered for a few years with my dad.
Barber, like cut hair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Old school.
Right.
None
with the blade?
None of the styling bullshit. No blades. Clippers. Clippers.
Giving people high tops.
Yeah. And
you still do that? I never knew you.
Oh, I certainly have the talent, yes, but I don't do it.
I want to get my hair, I want to get fucking cleaned up and lined up by Eddy Lepp. That'd be fucking crazy.
The thing was after Vietnam, I found it very, very hard to touch people. I found it very, very hard to share that intimacy with strangers. And so I quit cutting hair. But
so we took a big leap. So you told me a story about 6th grade. You were just always more interested in other things going on. You weren't really paying attention to school, which I understand because I was in school, didn't really care. I got some CBD joints for you right there if you want to light one up, by the way, too.
I got to say this. Before I went in, there was like Mexican dope and there was like skunk butt.
Right.
And that was it.
As far as weed goes.
Yeah, as far as weed goes for historically.
Before you went into the military.
No, before I went into prison.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're going to get to the prison. I just want to build up because there was a lot of things you did.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to
that.
But what I wanted to point out was before, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there was really very little selection.
Right.
And nobody knew a damn thing about isolates or CBD or this
CBN,
or that.
THCA, indoor, outdoor, cocoa, fucking...
all the crazy shit.
Rock wool.
But I got to tell you, my belief is that full spectrum is the only true answer to everything.
Full spectrum, like the full plant.
The full plant.
Like everything.
Full spectrum.
No extracting stuff out of it. We need the whole plant.
You need the whole
All
plant.
compounds.
But I was talking to my son on the way over here. I am so impressed with the CBDs because, see, I can't use cannabis right now because I'm still on federal probation.
Oof.
So
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. But I have to be very careful and limit myself to using CBD. And I've used it. I started using it due to my arthritis and using it in the salves.
Like a topical?
Yeah, on my hands. And I found it just incredible. And in fact, my son carries a salve that I used this morning that worked better than any of them I've ever used.
Shout out to the son.
Oh, yeah.
He was telling me about some milk he was making back in the day, too.
Oh,
the
yeah.
ganja milk.
Oh, yeah. Man.
What?
Oh, yeah. We used to make ice cream. Anyway.
We'll get, so.
But I'm really impressed with the CBDs.
Nice.
And what I told my kid was, I said, you know, if we got in a position where we could grow what we wanted, Daddy'd grow a half an acre of full spectrum, 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different strains because I like the variety.
Yeah.
And then I would grow a half an acre of CBD.
Right.
With, like Charlotte's Web and two or
certain
three
strains, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 of the real high-end CBDs. And then I would take the whole acre and put it all together and turn it all into RSO.
Right.
Specifically. I mean, Rick Simpson oil to me is the
miracle, yeah.
Yeah, it's the miracle to everything.
Yeah,
that's what I would do is I would add extra CBD to full spectrum.
Well, Reverend Eddy Lepp, we can still make that happen soon enough with your blessings because you have done so much to even get into the federal prison when you did is fucking mind-boggling. So here you are, 6th grade, bored with school, not really paying attention, started smoking weed because you were probably bored. Who was the first person you smoked weed with? Do you know?
Well, I don't remember exactly.
It was family, friend?
It was friends. Friends from school. And then when I was a little older, I smoked with some other kids there in school. And then when I went in the Army, as soon as I hit basic training, we started smoking on a regular basis.
And you said this was Vietnam? Yeah,
this was before Vietnam.
Okay.
This was when I first went in the Army.
You went on your own. You didn't get
Oh, no, okay. My lottery number was 13.
Okay.
So
it's a lucky number?
Yeah, it is. It's actually my very luckiest number. But my brother got in some trouble with the law, and he was given a choice, go to boys camp or enlist in the Army, him and 4 or 5 of his buddies. And my dad, we went down there, and we had an opportunity to learn how to make eyeglasses. And my dad said, God, you boys go in, learn how to make eyeglasses. When you get out, I'll buy a lab and
start a business.
And you can start making eyeglasses. And we both said, oh, fuck, this is wonderful, Dad. Shit. So we signed on the dotted fucking line.
Okay, he was a military man already, so he was kind of proud of his boys going into the Army.
Yes.
He was for it.
Right.
Okay,
and
give you a little
my
prize
brother,
at the end.
Right. So my brother actually went in about 3 weeks before I did. And he did his training, I believe, at Fort Hood, Texas, or something like that. And when I went in, I got sent to Fort Ord, California. Tommy ended up in Denver, Colorado, at Fitzsimmons Army Hospital, which is where they taught you how to make eyeglasses. And 3 weeks later, I arrived. And by the time I got there, my brother had been shipped out, sent back to Fort Benning, Georgia, to learn how to jump out of parachutes.
Oh, shit.
And what they never told us, what the recruiter never told us, was that you had to have 4 years of high school algebra to be able to make eyeglasses.
Oh, fuck.
And all I ever took was remedial math.
Right.
So,
You graduated high school, or did you?
No, I quit high school at 14.
Okay.
2 weeks later, I had my high school diploma.
Oh, get it. It's reading all them books.
Well, yeah, I got my GED.
Okay.
I passed it actually with a 97, I think, 96%, and never studied a thing. And went to Barber College. And then, like I say, after Barber College, I went in the military.
The Army, okay.
Went to Vietnam.
So you thought you were gonna do eyeglasses, then you didn't do 4 years of math. They said sorry, and then what? Bye. Here you go to Asia.
No, actually, they sent my brother to Fort Hood, Texas, and taught him how to shoot artillery, and then he got sent to Fort Carson, Colorado. I got sent to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where they taught me to be a supply clerk. And then I got reassigned to the Sierra Army Depot in California, which is a top secret seclusion base at the time.
Okay.
It was the home of the nuclear warheads.
Oh shit.
And real,
Top secret.
Yeah, I had a top secret clearance to work there. You had
Okay.
to. And then from there I went to Vietnam, and then I got discharged and I came home.
What were you doing in Vietnam? You were just
Well, I don't discuss Vietnam.
Okay.
Okay.
It's crazy.
We were there.
Yeah.
And, occasionally I will speak about Vietnam. Some of the lighter, more interesting type things.
There's a lot of people smoking weed in Vietnam.
You were either an alcoholic, a heroin addict, or dead.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, everybody got high.
It's crazy. It was just hell over there.
Well,
I mean, all the movies I see, I'm sure they don't do justice, but nothing is ever
nothing is.
out of war. Anyways, any type of war is crazy.
Well, every night I pray, and part of my prayer is that I beg the Lord to let all of His children live their lives without allowing either greed nor grief to rule their lives. And then I ask that He allows them all to realize in the very depths of their heart and soul that anger, violence, murder, and war should never be inflicted on anyone or anything for any reason.
Amen. It's
I
great.
I pray that every night.
Man, well, I hope that those prayers get answered, because that's I got to go back and listen to what you just said and remember that, because that was a great thing to recite and remember.
Thank you.
So you come back from Vietnam.
I come back from Vietnam. I married a wonderful woman. Her name, this will be interesting as we go through this story. Her name was Linda Sue, RLS, and they'll become apparent why I mentioned that down the road. I spent 18 years with her, buried in the bottom of a booze bottle, snorting everything that was powdered, popping everything that was pilled.
This is you?
Yeah.
When you got it back from Vietnam?
Yeah.
Just lost.
Total garbage can, fucked everything that moved, gambled every fucking penny I had. Big time party boy. And believe it or not, was actually very happy in my marriage for about 17 years. And then I guess she got tired of the party boy.
That's a long time partying.
Yeah, and she moved on. At that time, my dad got ill and died, sadly, at the age of 56.
Sorry to hear that.
And prior to his death, I had already started making arrangements to go into the National Center for PTSD for non-vets, which I did do. I went through and finished that program. And as I came out of that program, I met and ultimately down the road ended up marrying Linda Sentai, another LS, which will become apparent why that's important as we get on with the story. Anyway, I spent 18 wonderful years with Linda before she died in my arms.
Jeez.
She was, without a doubt, a living saint. I have a friend that I spoke to just last month that had carpal tunnel so bad in both wrists that she had to wear the braces to even go to sleep.
Oh my God.
Linda did a healing ceremony on her 10 or 12 years ago before Linda died. I spoke to her the other day. She has never put those braces back on. She is still cured from what Linda did for her. She was one of the most loving, most caring, most concerned people I ever met. Because of her, we started doing all of the clinics. When the state of California said that they believed they had approximately 100,000 official card-carrying marijuana patients in the state. Linda and I were personally responsible for somewhere between 30 and 35,000 of those recommendations.
30% of them
Over 30%.
out here.
Yeah, we had huge clinics at our farm for several years, about 3.5 years. And we'd have 200, 300, 400, up to 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 people come through in a 3 or 4 day period, depending on how many doctors came. To our clinics.
Okay.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to call them clinics, but fuck them, that's what they were. And we did that, and then Linda had a girlfriend that was really ill that lived in a little bitty travel trailer in a small mobile home park, and she couldn't grow her own medicine. And so I started growing medicine for her. We had bought the farm the year before, and as she got sicker, she needed more medicine, and so we started allowing her to grow it up on the farm. And then somebody found out I was doing it for her, and he came over and he said, "Hey, Ed, well, at the end of the first year that I decided to do that, I had 10 or 12 people that couldn't grow where they lived. And so we decided to open up the place. And I had an opportunity to reunite the 40 acres that was the original home site. And so I went ahead and purchased the other 25 acres from the gentleman that I'd bought the house from. So I had the original 40-acre home site.
Damn. And where's this at?
In Lake County.
Okay.
Right on Highway 20. And we put in the fields, and we, let people know that, hey, we're here to help. And basically the way it worked out was that there were 27 or 2,800 people, somewhere between 27 and 2,800 people involved in the garden. And when I went to trial, the judge said if we introduced any of the agreements, that she would arrest all of them and prosecute all of them for conspiracy.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I had promised all of them that if anything like that ever happened, that I would not turn them over.
Right.
I said,
confidential.
Unless it's a matter of life and death,
okay,
I will not betray you.
Okay.
And had I betrayed them, then we could have proven that divided by the number of people that we had, that the 32,524 plants worked out to about...
Ooh. Here, so I'm going to rewind a little bit. You said 32,000 plants.
Well, no, actually what I said was 32,524.
Okay.
But
32,524. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a big difference because so here you are, you're with LS, you chilling, you got this farm, you bought the new farm. When did you decide like, all right, I'm growing marijuana? When did you decide this was the thing you're going to do?
I bought the farm specifically
just to grow it.
To grow marijuana. That was the only reason.
Did you have seeds? Did you have clones? How did you know you were going to get marijuana? How did you get these seeds? Or did you do seeds? How did you start growing? Did you have any experience growing? Did you grow at all before the Army?
Okay, if you ask that question of my ex-wife, her answer would be, he's Eddy fucking Lepp, and he's got balls that he needs a front loader to move him around.
It's like that South Park episode with the wheelbarrow.
Exactly.
Holding his balls.
No, I traveled all over the world. I bought a ton of genetics from Neville, the creator of Neville Hayes.
Yes, Neville Hayes.
I bought almost every strain he ever did. I've been gifted virtually every Cannabis Cup entry in the first 20 years of the Cup in Amsterdam.
All the Hazes, all the Widows,
all of it. And I probably brought back another 30 or 40 strains from Europe that didn't even have a name, because back then
there were no names.
There weren't. It was just, hey, this is something new that I came up with. So
you're traveling around the world, just meeting people randomly, because there's no like Instagram or Facebook or connecting. This is just real life interaction. So you're just walking and you just walk into Arjan and Neville. You just meet Soma. Like, how does this work? You just this guy has a long beard. Let me say hi to him.
Well, no. By the time I went to Amsterdam the first time, I had already won my trial, and when I went to Amsterdam the first time,
What was the trial that you won the first time?
It was my state trial for cultivation.
Okay.
Overland descent Thai, being ill with the cancer.
Right, and then you had that.
And
This is
I
under
won.
215 days
Yeah.
where you're illegally allowed to grow a certain amount of plants.
Right. Yeah, I was.
And you were a part of that. You helped with that whole thing with Dennis and
yeah.
Jack.
Oh yeah. Dennis and Jack and I worked tirelessly on that, along with many other people. That was definitely a group effort. But we planted and got the gardens going and got the fields up and got all these seeds from all around the world. And like I say, people, once my name got out there a little bit, then people started actually looking for me, if you will.
Right.
And
we need to get our shit to Eddy Lepp. He needs to bring it to the West Coast.
Well, exactly. I mean, I'd go to an event in Seattle, and they'd want me to bring their stuff home to Cali to see how
it grows. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories is telling about how I got some seeds from Soma one year, and I brought them home and I planted them outdoors. And when I went back to Amsterdam, this was before 9/11, and what I would do is I would roll a whole pack of cigarettes, 1 gram joints, right? And I would put them in a cigarette pack, and I would put a pack of cigarettes in both coat pockets. And then when Linda Sentai and I would get up to where we had to go through security,
right,
she'd take my coat, and she would go first and throw my coat on the belt, and she would walk through. Well, as soon as she walked through, the person that's looking at the belt, I would walk through. The second I walk through, all the alarms go off.
Right.
Because I got suspenders on.
So they
don't even.
You guys
pay
had it down.
And for years.
Shout out to Linda.
Took them all. Okay. So
Shout out to Linda. Because of Linda, we got our strains.
So we go over to Soma's house. It's back when he was living up above the grocery store. And we go over there, and I break out a couple of these joints, and I get Soma just fucking wrecked. He's fucking sideways. And we got to leave. He has a contract with one of the coffee shops to furnish product.
Okay.
Okay, well, in Amsterdam, as you know, they can only have so much in the shop at any one time. And they had called Soma earlier in the day and said, hey, at 6 o'clock, bring us X amount, yada, yada, right?
I was in a coffee shop when it got raided by the police in Amsterdam.
Well, he remembers, right?
6 o'clock, I got to get there.
Yeah, we got to. So we're out setting it. The stairways in Amsterdam are like straight up and down. It's almost like going up and down a ladder.
Yes,
right?
They're really steep.
And Soma's kind of bobbing and weaving, and we're sitting there, and he's sliding on his shoes. We're sitting on the top stoop, and he's putting on his shoes, and he turns to me and he says, Eddie, what the fuck was that shit we just smoked? I said, yours.
But it's still stuff that you grew.
Yeah, it was stuff I grew.
From his seed.
But you got to understand, Soma and everybody in Amsterdam don't know what the fuck it looks like.
Right.
Because all they can do is grow indoors. They've never seen any of their strains grown in 16, 18 hours a day of sun in northern Cali.
Fresh air.
Well, plus where I live, the 40 acres, originally a volcano exploded. Okay, so tens of thousands of years ago, it's all volcanic, right? Then back in the early 1900s, they put a dairy farm on my property.
Okay,
so I had cows shitting and pissing all over my fucking property.
For years.
From the teens up through the early 40s.
Oof, fresh.
Okay.
And layers.
Yeah, and then when I came in, that by now that's all been sitting there 15 or 20 years, but it's all in the soil. And when we came in, I brought in a DC-10 with 4-foot rakes, and I had him go straight up and back, straight across and back, and then diagonally across. And then we disked the whole thing with a 24-inch disc and prepared it. But yeah, that was some of the richest soil you've ever seen.
So anything you put in there. So you built this relationship with all these growers, all these genetics, and you grow them on your farm, 40 acres. You're with the 215 crew, so you're helping all these people that need weed. So what was it? It was how many plants per patient can you have? It was like 6 to 10 or with?
There's actually no limit. That's one thing that's always been a real fucking pain for me. If you read, let me tell you another little story.
All right,
okay?
Tell me.
Okay. I have a beautiful friend, a wonderful friend. Her name's Erica. And Erica has been with me from the beginning. She's been at every raid. She's been involved in my life intimately for many, many years. And she has 3 wonderful sons that I love like my own. And we put it together, and Joe, her ex-husband, who sadly was murdered 10 or 12 years ago, moved out with the boys and was part of the farm and everything, you know. And the boys had been there 2 or 3 days, and Pierre at this time was 8 years old. And he came out and he sat down and he saw my tray with all the marijuana and the rolling papers in it. And he said, "I'd like to learn how to roll a joint." And I said, "Well, I would be glad to teach you, because I honestly believe that you should expose children to these things and educate them.
Right.
You don't just tell them, no, you can't do that. You explain why."
Right.
So he said he wanted to. I said, "All right," but I said, "You got to do something for me." And he said, "What's that?" Now, you got to understand, the room was full of people. There's 30, my front room was 1,200 square feet.
Oof.
Just
throwing
my front,
parties. Let's go.
Yeah, my front room was 1,200 square feet. So we're full, right? Pierce says, "What do you want me to do, Papa?" And I said, "You see that on the coffee table?" It was this little green piece of paper. He said, "Yeah, what?" I said, "Pick that up and read it and tell me what it says. Tell me what you interpret from it." What it was a copy of 215.
Prop 215.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Kid got done reading it. Now, this kid's from Iowa. He don't know shit about 215.
Right.
You know, he hadn't heard nothing. He don't know anything.
Right.
He reads this. I said, "All right, Pierre." I says, what do you think, kid?" He says, "I don't know, Papa." He says, "But I think it's saying that if you're sick or got a reason and a doctor says it's okay, that you can grow and use marijuana. Is that right?" And I said, "Son of a bitch, a fucking 8-year-old can fucking understand this and explain it to me, and these cocksuckers in charge with fucking years and years of college educations. I'm a lawyer, now I'm your senator. You can't fucking figure it out?"
That's
a goddamn 8-year-old did.
Wow. Politics for you.
Well, you know, I knew we were fucked immediately when 215 passed. And you know how I knew?
How?
Because I got arrested.
Right when it went to 215, 96.
Right. And if you read 215, what should have happened was I should have pulled out my recommendation and said, "See that, officer? Get the fuck out of my face." But what happened was the officer knocked me on my ass, put me in handcuffs, hauled me to fucking jail.
No questions.
Charged me tens of thousands of dollars to get out of all this horse shit. And then I was told, "Mr. Lepp, even though you did everything completely right and completely legal under 215, we've decided 215 is not a protection. It's a fucking defense."
Wow.
Okay, it's not a fucking defense.
Right.
It's a goddamn law. And if you read the son of a bitch, it don't say a goddamn thing about any of the shit they're talking about. It says if you've got a doctor's recommendation, you are exempt from prosecution.
In the state.
Period.
Yes.
Okay, I had a recommendation. I'm exempt from prosecution. Why was I forced to go to trial and prove my innocence?
Why? They had no answer?
No.
They were just,
they
now,
still
how
don't.
did they know? How did they know? So here's Eddy Lepp and LS traveling, getting seeds, growing, having land and growing for many patients. You had a temple. Eddy Lepp's medicinal garden and Rastafarian temple. Is that right? I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. No notes.
Yeah. No, that's pretty close.
So here you guys are. How do people know that you're growing weed? Is it true? This is what I learned because I know about the legend Eddy Lepp and I heard stories and all the myths and stuff that you had so many plants on your property that you could see the weed from the highway just driving down. You'd be like, "Oh shit, look, you got a whole field Is that true?
Well, actually, the 40 acres ran north to south, and the field ran east to west. Okay. And the Highway 20 literally cut the field in half. Well, not exactly in half. There's like
it just went through it.
Yeah, 23 acres on one side and the rest of the 40 acres on the other. And
17.
You could smell it like 3 miles away.
It just smells like when you drive up north to Cali and you go through that cow section. It just smells like shit. It's the same shit when you drive through your neighborhood. You're like, dude, it smells dank.
Yeah, well, I know one thing that just tickled me to no end when I got out of prison. I had to go up north, and my God, it's garden after garden after garden after garden, and you can see them all from the roads.
Right.
And, you know, again, I hate to sound egotistical, but I look out there and I get a tear in my eye because I know them sons of bitches are being able to do that because of what I did.
Paved the way.
And, you know, I was told the whole time I was in prison, by every guard I ever had, by every warden I ever talked to, all of them, Eddie, you were just 20 years too soon.
You're just ahead of your time.
Dude, I'm sitting in federal prison in Colorado with the fucking Boston Barmer, fucking Krasinski.
People that are killing folks.
All these motherfuckers.
People that actually have victims.
Right.
And
all
here
these,
you are healing people, helping them out,
right.
saving lives.
Right. And check this out. I'm in a support camp. They're in the you know, high security max and all this shit.
Right.
Less than 300 yards from the front door where I live, there's a road. The fence for the property is there, right? There is a motherfucker neighbor right next to the prison that grows an entire backyard full of pot, 10 and 12, 15 footers. You can see them from the prison. You're within 10 feet of them.
And nothing.
Nothing.
And this is recently.
This was the last 3 years I was in prison. They grew every year.
That must be super frustrating. It must be like bittersweet for you. It's so frustrating because you spent federal time. Not a lot of people like understand the history of cannabis, but people are still going to jail for it. But you spent federal time for something that everyone is doing. And when you were doing this, like now people take like 20, 30,000 plants. Okay, that's fine. Or like 100 lights, 1,000 lights. Like now facilities are crazy. But you were doing this before anyone.
The largest grow that wasn't cartel related prior to my gardens, they usually average no more than 100.
Yeah.
100 plants, 150
plants. Like 20,000 plants is a lot of work, Eddie. Like, look, well, I appreciate all the growers out there. Like, I have no time. I have no patience to grow weed. So I appreciate everyone. If it's one plant or 100 plants or 1,000 lights, like, I appreciate them and all the time it takes. So I thank you for doing it and probably teaching many, many people how to grow. I'm sure you had a whole crew of people, especially with 30,000 plants.
Well, it's, you know, been one of the great rewards of my life is being able to help others and being able to teach them. And then, of course, you know, you sadly, you know, realize that, on occasion that, you know, the people you loved and thought you could trust and care about ended up, you know, fucking you to tears, which, you know, has happened on several occasions.
It is. So it's just crazy. It's fucking humbling to have you next to me, and I appreciate you spending your time with this. And you know, you went to jail. What was the date that you went and started your? You had
I went to trial in December of 2008.
Okay.
And actually turned myself in to the Lompoc Federal Prison July 6th.
2009.
Of 2009.
Yes.
And was actually released from prison December 6th of 16, and then was released from BOP custody because even though you're in a halfway house, you're still belong to the Bureau of Prisons. I actually left their custody June 7th, 17.
2017. Free man.
No.
Not yet.
No, I have 5 years on federal probation. I'll have 2 years in the first of next month, and I'm going to ask for that it be terminated. You know, you've got the bar ruling, which says they can't use federal money to go after compliant people in states. So it's kind of seems silly that they're
gonna waste money.
Keeping me on probation.
Right.
So we'll hopefully
let them live. Get off Eddie's ass.
Hopefully we'll be able to, and that's what we're trying for. My son, who is with the California Seed Bank, is going to be introducing a lot of the strains that I have. We've got almost 100 strains.
Hell yeah, keeping it alive.
Well, they've never been released.
So you are okay. So I'm just gonna just get to like some meat and potatoes right now, real quick. We're gonna you get raided. You do the federal time. They say they want to give you like 4 life sentences plus all these extra years of shit for growing a plant. Like some people say, no victim, no crime. Like you didn't really hurt anyone. Why you sacrificing your time for them? But I know the prisons are private systems. They want nonviolent criminals in there so they can get their money, and you guys are easy to work with instead of dealing with like crazy criminals. So I get how the whole political system works. It's trash. But before you go into prison, 2009, there's a lot of dispensaries. Weed is pretty active. There's a lot of people growing weed now. You are part of a lot of amazing strains like the OZ. You also are part of Eddy Lepp OG, of course.
Oh, yeah.
You've crossed many strains. So going into federal prison, what was the scene like? Was there dabbing? Were people hitting concentrates?
Oh, no.
It was just turkey bags?
By the time I went into prison, there were strains. They had names now.
Started getting them.
But there was no
the Blue Dreams and the White Widows and the Hazes and the OGs and the Kushes and the Bubbas.
Yeah, the big thing was I worked with Mila and her son.
Okay, Queen of Hash.
Right, and I brought the very first set of 50-gallon
bubble bags
to the United States. Yes, if you look at the Can of Bible 2 that Jason King did, the first 8 pages is a forward all about me.
Nice.
And there's a big picture in there of me with a 50-gallon
bubble bags.
Rubbermaid food-grade garbage can, mixing it the old-fashioned way with bamboo sticks.
With love and passion.
Exactly.
I did it on his farm on those bags.
Well, Andrew out here is reminiscing all the time.
I had to jump in.
So you go in, it's just still old school traditional tech. No one really has the science behind it. We just kind of are educated now because there's a lot more people that are growing freely. Mm-hmm. They feel protected, even though it's not a protection. It's a defense, which is bullshit. It's the law. It should just be what it says. So now you get out of prison. It's 2017. Now let's fast forward to just today. I got to spend time with you a little bit. You got to come to one of the events I'm a part of. Mm-hmm. I do these traditional market events. Been doing them for a little bit. You walk in and you just see a bunch of brands, a bunch of people with flavors and different types of ways to consume it and edibles. What is going through your mind at this moment?
Pride.
Pride?
Pride.
I like that.
Many, many years ago, I held a woman in my arms as she died. And I made her a promise. And then I went to prison. And I made a phone call one day. I spoke to a man. I made him a promise right before he died. Then I came home from prison. And a man that I love very much, who had promised me a year before I got out of prison he would do everything he could to stay alive until I got home. I went up to the VA hospital and I held him in my arms. And I made him a promise. He died the next day.
Oh.
The woman I made that promise to was Linda Sentai. The first man was Jack Herrera. The second man was Dennis Perone. And I promised to you motherfuckers the same fucking thing I promised every one of them. I ain't fucking stopping until the promise I made comes true, and that's full legalization without the bullshit, without the fucking us like we're a cash goddamn cow. We are an industry just like anybody else, and we deserve and have earned the respect that goes with that. And I, by God, I'm gonna see that we fucking get it. And I'm asking all of you, get off of your asses just fucking once. Stand up with me when we reintroduce the Jack Herrera Initiative for the 2020 elections. Help me pass this goddamn thing, and let's do away with all of the graft, all the bullshit, all the overpricing, and I will show you how we can have safe, affordable cannabis just like we have safe, affordable beer. It's not that hard. We are not a cash cow. We're an industry. It's time to treat us like one.
What? Thank you. That was out here spending messages, and that sucks to hear about Linda and Jack while you were in jail that they had to pass. And what you were talking about pride, it's great because if it wasn't for people like you, we wouldn't be out here keeping pushing on the mission to make it happen. And I just appreciate you.
Well, I truly appreciate that more than you know, Adam. I mean, you know, I've said many times, I am so thankful and so humbled by the many blessings that have come to me. But all this really is a love story. I fell in love with a beautiful woman, and I watched her die in front of my eyes. The day I found out she was going to die, the doctor told me she had 4, maybe 6 months. 3 years later, I went and saw him after her funeral. He put his arms around me, and he told me, he said, Eddie, I don't know if it was the peyote ceremonies. I don't know if it was the sun dance. I don't know if it was a THC you shoved up her ass and down her throat. I don't know what the fuck it was. I don't know why she got that extra 2.5 years, Eddie. But I can tell you one thing. It wasn't me. All I did for her was stop the pain the last week.
It wasn't the Western medicine.
No.
The natural.
No. It was Linda's determination to live every second that she could live, coupled with the fact that we did the peyote ceremonies, we did the mushroom ceremonies, we did the tea ceremonies, we did the sun dances, we did shove it up her ass and down her throat and anoint her with it day in and day out. And
just saturate the body with it.
I don't know, how you people out there feel about other people. And, you could all possibly not give a fuck about anything. But if you've ever loved anybody, your child, your husband, your wife, your mother, your father, a grandma, a grandfather, an aunt, and uncle, if you've ever loved anything at all, you have to understand how precious and how important that 2.5 years with Linda was for me. Because when I found that out about my dad, he was gone in 2 or 3 weeks.
When you found out he had cancer?
When he had cancer, which was 15 years before Linda. And we didn't know about the THC. Yeah. We didn't know any of this. And I watched my dad die in 3 weeks.
Oof. I'm sorry.
I watched my wife die in 3 years. But God damn it was 3 years and not 3 weeks.
Right, you got some extra time.
Hey, like I say, if you ever loved anybody, you know how precious even 1 second with them is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy how people's minds change from 5, 10, like even 3 years ago, how cannabis was so negative and it had so much bad stigma. But the more research we have and the more people are aware of it, now I have family members that used to yell at me as a kid getting high, asking me for weed or asking me for RSO, like, hey, do you have any CBD? Like, now they're interested in it. And when I was preaching, and the only reason why I was preaching is because I got to have some time with Jack Herrera, personal time, and Jack Herrera educated me a lot about the hemp plant and the benefits of cannabis.
Yeah, Jack would educate anybody.
Would just shove it, and then he would always tell me about mushrooms and how I should always be eating them, and should always.
That's one of the things with Jack. after Jack had his stroke in 2000, I started buying mushrooms for Jack and fed Jack mushrooms every day till I went to prison. We used the Anamita mascara and the Anamita Panzerina and psilocybin, and it was micro doses. It was never enough to
get fucked
rock
up.
his world.
Just add a little sparkle to the life.
Well, no, what it did actually, at least this is what Jack and I believe. We believe that it actually helped remarry the nerve endings.
Okay.
That in the beginning, when Jack first had that stroke, he could only talk about 2 minutes, and then he would lose track and get frustrated, and he'd start going like this, hitting his hand into his other hand, trying to force himself to remember. I worked with him, and we worked with the mushrooms, and we practiced, because Jack and I were on stage together for 10 years, and we had it down to a fine art. At the end, Jack could talk between 7 and 10 minutes before he'd start going like this.
Right. Progression.
And both of us believe it was because the mushrooms helped to incur the healing. So.
Man, before any of this social media or Google, you were out here doing your own research and your own knowledge. And I just want to know, what is Eddy Lepp up to now? I know we're almost out of time, and I know we could talk for another 5 hours, and I'm sure I'll have you back on again. But I just want to know, what's Eddy Lepp up to now, and what do you want people to know?
Well, right now, what I'm up to is absolutely nothing. As I said, I'm still on federal probation.
Okay.
And I'm not involved in anything. However, that said, my son, who owns a seed company, the California Seed Bank.
Big genetics.
He will be introducing some of the almost 100 strains that we have that have never been introduced. Another one of my...
Like what? Like what strain? What are these exclusive strains? Because I know you're a part of some beginning strains.
How's it going?
What's up? There he is.
Hey.
There he is. So what are some of the... Because I know a lot of people know you from the OZ, and you had the Skittles before it went to all these other seed companies. You had some of these other amazing strains that are popular. I know you were talking about the cookies and gelatos and the cherry pies and all that.
Yeah.
Grape Bait.
Yeah, almost all of the genetics in California now. I mean, from what I understand, I'm not positive, but from what I've been told, 80 or 90% of this stuff came from my farm originally.
80% of the genetics in California right now came from the farm.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Thank
pretty
you.
Much. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's all provable.
Thank you.
So.
Out here. So what do you guys have now? What are these new strains? You guys got exclusive crosses you're releasing? What's going on?
Well, we've got...
I think I'll let Dad go with that one.
We've got the OG Eddy Lepp, which is, the mainstay, which is, the cup winner and everything, that we've crossed with quite a few different things that we'll be bringing out. And, like I say, I don't really know. My son does most of it.
OG Eddy Lepp is coming back.
Bringing it back. Are you crossing it with other things? Because I looked at a menu today, and you had 15 pages of just different crosses.
Right.
You're like, all right, we took the Sunday driver and we just busted nuts all over these flowers.
Yeah, and that was Colorado stuff, and we have pretty extensive menu.
Okay. California Seed Bank. So get ready for some new genetics and new strains to hit the shelves.
The OG Eddy Lepp.
Okay.
Yeah, we're bringing out the true strains.
So I used to always say free Eddy Lepp. It's good to see you not behind on federal grounds anymore and out to enjoy
Free
life.
Eddy Lepp.
Do you still have Eddy Lepp? Is EddyLepp.com a thing still? Or are you still?
They can get a hold of me on Facebook.
Okay.
Eddy Lepp on Facebook.
EDDYLEPP.
That's it.
Okay.
And that's the easiest way to get a hold of me is Facebook or
Eddy
DM me.
Lepp. See him because I've been it's great to
OG
see you at
Eddy
events
Lepp
now.
Genetics.
I saw you at High Times in the VIP section. I saw you out at some of these other events. You were at Hall of Flowers for a little bit.
Yeah, I've tried to, like I say, I've got to be real careful and stay in the CBD sections and
CBD.
Be real careful that way. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying being able to get back into it a little bit, and I would like to give a shout out to the best cannabis band in the world, Mendo Dope. I love those boys.
Okay.
Their new album, Live in the Garden 3, is out, and they got a song called 707.
Say it backwards.
Say it backwards, 707.
Okay.
It just describes the life of a Northern California pot farmer. And I've been blessed. I occasionally get to go on stage and sing background
Hey, Eddy Lepp.
with them. And a little shout out to Patrick King, and of course, a big shout out to my partner in business,
Soil King.
associate Grow Kashi, which is another one of my companies.
Okay.
So, and I'd like to thank everybody that supported me over the years that I was away. The letters, the money on my books, the magazines. I will be humbled if I live to be 10,000 years old. I will be humbled over the way you people have treated me. I cannot thank you enough. I thank you. My family thanks you. And I thank you again. Love, respect.
Well, and I thank you for coming and spending your time. We appreciate you. The podcast with Eddy Lepp, living legend. I'm glad to be here next to you. Thank you all for listening. Wherever you're at, you already know. Share it with your friends. We're on Purple Haze Radio, the OG podcast.
OG Eddy Lepp Genetics.
Hey,
get ready.
Pay attention. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna go get higher. Bye.